Hey guys, so Rojas AP do a lot of cool things. One of the cool things that we do is tenant protection plans, or TPP. We'll learn more about that later. But my name is Deja, and I'm an urban planner at Rojas AP. So since I don't know much about tenant protection plans, I decided to ask my team, what are they?
So a tenant protection plan is referred to as TPP, and it is a required item by the New York City Department of Buildings, or the DOB. And this is required when a dwelling unit is occupied during construction in a building.
So why are tenant protection plans required in NYC?
So in the early 2000s, there was a couple of contractors and developers that were a little aggressive in their construction activity when there was occupied units, and they really considered that harassment of tenants, and it happened a lot in rent-controlled and rent-stabilized apartments. So they would just be so disruptive that the tenants would be like, forget it, I'm moving out, therefore losing their rent control and rent-stabilized apartment, and then the developer could then charge market rate. So the tenant protection plan was created in 2008 to protect tenants.
Who needs to create a tenant protection plan?
So the contractor performing the work will need to hire the registered design professional, whether that's an architect or an engineer, and they will create and file the tenant protection plan with the Department of Buildings. And most of the contractors are not aware of this requirement, and so if you're a general contractor, you should be aware to put this in your proposal to the clients, as it is required by the DOB.
What are the key components of a tenant protection plan?
So the tenant protection plan covers a variety of things, basically, to protect the tenant. So like if a contractor's in the means of egress performing work, we make sure that, that's accounted for and tenants are notified. It also takes into consideration dust control and noise mitigation, so the hours that the contractor can work and noisy work in particular. And then if there's like utilities that need to be shut down during work, we'll examine that. And then also the contractor is responsible for creating alternatives. So if they're going to shut down water, hey, give everybody a gallon of water for the day, or 2 gallons, whatever, depending on how long the water shut down. Sometimes it's an hour and you don't really need anything. But if they're shutting down for the whole day, you want to provide the tenants with something to accommodate them.
And knowing that, how are tenant protection plans developed?
So the first step is for the architect or engineer to review the drawings, and that'll determine whether the tenant protection plan is a written plan or a plan that includes drawings as well. And so once that's determined, we contact the contractor and discuss. Basically, we have a list of questions that we ask the contractor, and that includes, whether the egress is being affected during the work. Will there be any essential services that's being disrupted? Essential services like hot and cold water, gas, electrical, and things like that. And so once that's all determined, and we create the tenant protection plan, right? We write it out, and once all the information are on there, and then we file to submit to the DOB for review and approval.
So now, how are tenants notified with a tenant protection plan?
So once we file the tenant protection plan with the DOB and it gets approved, then it's the owner's responsibility to notify all tenants. So there's like a PDF that's generated from the DOB. They're required to print it out and basically, put it under the doors of each tenant. They need to get to it. Some larger units we've had have like a email list for the whole building, so they email it out to their tenants. And then in addition to that, that notification is also put in the lobby or like a high, used area. And then it's also required on each floor within 10 feet of a stair or an elevator.
So what are some expectations that tenants can have during construction when a TPP is in place?
They should expect a safe construction site that minimally affects them. Construction is going on, there will be noise, there may be shutdowns, but they should know when the shutdowns are happening, how much notice they're going to get before the shutdown, and if anything is really an extended period where they're inconvenienced, what are the things that the contractor is going to do to make them, less inconvenience.
Are there any penalties for not having a tenant protection plan?
So a work permit cannot be issued until the TPP is approved. So if the DOB, if a DOB inspector goes to the construction site and there's no TPP, likely there's no work permit, right? With that being said, if there's no work permit, the DOB inspector can issue a stop work order or even a violation.
So usually, how long does a TPP last?
So each tenant protection plan is for an individual construction project. So it outlines how work will affect for one project. So it lasts the entire length of the project as long as the work permit is active, the tenant protection plan is active. So until there's a letter of completion or a new CFO issued, the tenant protection plan remains in place.
During construction, what if the tenants have any complaints?
So there's a contact person on all the TPP notices. So they can always call that contact person to voice their complaints, but if they feel like they're not getting anywhere or don't feel comfortable, 311 in New York City is always the place to go for complaints. Then 311 will reach out to the DOB and send an inspector likely. The inspector then comes and sees that the tenant protection plan that's in place is not being followed, then they can issue violations.